Hello, this is Brockholes Wildlife Trust. It's a unique floating visitor centre in Lancashire in England, and I'd like you to meet the Chief Exec, Anne Selby, to explain its background and its history, where it is now and what it's intending to do. Let me introduce you. Hello, I'm Marj Boyer. I'd like to introduce you to Anne Selby, who's the Chief Exec of the Lancashire Wildlife Trust. Anne, what's Brockholes and why is it so different? What's so special about Brockholes?
It is pretty unique actually. It started off as an old sand and gravel extraction quarry, which we'd been interested in for a long time. It is right next to the motorway, as you might be able to hear in the distance of the M6 trundling past us. It is surrounded by the River Ribble and some ancient woodland, and it had the potential to be a fantastic wildlife reserve for birds and other mammals and creatures. We've got badgers here, we've got other creatures. But the particular difference that Brockholes has is that it's got this amazing floating visitor centre. It was designed by the architect Adam Kahn. It was the result of a design competition that he won, and it was to look at what we could put on this site because the site is in a floodplain and it's obviously subject to flooding, so his solution was to float it. His inspiration was marsh villages in Iraq and Iran, and he was inspired by these sort of ideas, and when we saw the proposal as a result of the competition, we just thought that is the one. Environment Agency liked it because obviously it wasn't subject to flooding, it was able to float, and we liked it too because it was in a place that would sort of honour what we were trying to do and help connect people to nature, which is one of the core purposes. Not only is it to protect and enhance the nature on the site, but it's also to inspire and reconnect people so they have contact with nature, because lots of people see it on the televisions these days, but they don't necessarily have that up close and personal connection with it. And what we're trying to do here is offer conferences in the wild, catering activities, events, education, all sorts of things that sort of bring people down here and start reconnecting with nature on this site. And
it's been open, what, two and a half years? So it was open in about 2011?
2011.
How was it funded? How was Brockholes funded?
Well, the site was originally supposed to come to us as part of a Section 106 agreement after the quarrying was finished, and unfortunately the Section 106 didn't really stand the test of time, and effectively the site was put on the open market. We were pretty upset about that at the time, since we were named recipients, and we were being asked to find substantial amounts of money to pay for the site. And we just really didn't know where we were going to find those sums of money. And then what happened was we were talking to various people, and one of the groups we talked to was the Development Agency, and particularly the Newlands programme, which was set up to handle derelict land in the northwest.
I'm going to say it was the Northwest Development Agency.
Ah,
right,
yes,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just saw the site and thought this could be the flagship for the Newlands programme. It was a derelict site that had been extracted, quarry extraction. It had this perfect connection to the motorway. It was quite close to quite a deprived area in Preston. It had a lot to sort of give us a high score on their criteria for judging where they want to do it. So they actually came forward and said they would give us the money to buy land. Obviously we had to have it assessed and buy it at market value, and the condition of us buying the lands was we had to come back to them with a proposal that said we would develop something that was self-sustaining, iconic, and obviously protected the nature conservation elements of the site. So it was quite a tall order for a charity to sort of take that on, but we were determined, and the trustees were determined to go the distance. And so after we bought the land, we went ahead with the developments. They helped us, they assisted us, the Forestry Commission and the Development Agency. We employed consultants to come up with a business plan. the sort of marketing plans, the branding and everything, to make a proposal for what we wanted. The design competition for the building was part of that, and so then we went back after only about a year with a fully fledged proposal of how we wanted to build this, what it would cost, and how it would eventually become self-sustaining.
And obviously there weren't too many challenges in terms of funding once you got your funding in place, but were there other challenges, maybe operational challenges or building challenges or even people challenges?
Well, the funding seemed to be a huge challenge to start with, but
okay.
Obviously we had a guardian angel who came to our assistance. I mean, it's not that it was easy to get, we still had to go through a lot of due process, it was a lot of public money. But we met the criteria, we did a quality application, and we were able to get the money. But it was the match really that was the hard work for the charity.
Yes.
So whilst the Development Agency and the Forestry Commission and Newlands was very interested in the sort of commercial side of the site, we really needed to fundraise to get cracking with the wildlife and environment side of the site. So the Tubney Trust and the landfill tax bodies and others were brilliantly helpful, some of the deaf family organisations, in giving us grants that allowed us to really get cracking on what you see behind me, which is the old quarry, but the edges were softened and the reed beds were put in and things were made so they were absolutely perfect for the nature conservation that we were trying to enhance in Lancashire. So that was one problem. That wasn't easy to raise the sort of £10 million that we raised for this site, a huge undertaking for a charity, and obviously took a lot of the staff time to do that.
Yes.
But then the other side, operationally, I think we sort of landed our feet. We knew right from the word go that we needed a specialist team to do this. And whilst we had a specialist construction team with architects and mechanical, electrical engineers and stuff like that, we knew from a previous development we'd done that we actually needed someone who was going to manage that. So we brought in quite early on a project manager who was going to be like the client representative to handle all that for us. And we also brought in a conservation manager who would develop the site. We were able to do that because of some funding we got. And we also quite early on brought in the actual development manager who was going to be eventually the general manager of the site, so that they could start thinking about how it would be commercial and what we needed to make it work. So they were probably one of the later appointments, but still quite a long time in advance of opening.
Okay, and because it was public sector funded, how have you been able to show to the public sector, bodies, that you have given them a kind of a return on their investment?
Okay, well, it's sort of, it's on the box really, isn't it? And we've produced what we set out to do, which was this iconic building. It is BREEAM Outstanding, which was another requirement of the funders, which is the highest level, the highest accolade you can get for sustainable building construction. So we've ticked that box, we've produced what we said, we've delivered the building, we've delivered the nature reserve, we've marketed it, we've branded it, we've done all the things that we said we were going to do. The one thing that hasn't happened yet is we haven't got it onto a self-sustaining funding base, and that will take a few years. I mean, the business plan always said it would take a little while, and we're not yet there, and that has been a bigger challenge to us than we anticipated in the original business plan, because we were late opening, contractors were late. It was the worst summer ever that we had after we'd opened. We couldn't get the brown and crim signs from the Highways Agency for a couple of years. That was quite a battle, and we had lots of issues with the car parking machinery that had been installed. So it took a lot of time to get the sort of, there was a lot of teething problems, a lot of challenges that we're not anticipating in the business plan, and so we're a bit behind where we hope to be, and we're not really yet earning enough income for it to sort of break even. So it's stretching us as a charity. We've been lucky, we've been able to sell some land and stuff that allowed us to sort of keep going, because we're really passionate, believe in what we're doing here, and we've got to get it to that place where it's going to fly on its own.
So it's been open just over 2 years. Most of its teething troubles are now gone. It is doing the job that it was set out to do. Obviously, because it's still new, relatively speaking, the income level hasn't reached a sustainable level. Now, obviously because of public sector funding, and now public sector funding has been reduced, how do you move forward? What are the challenges moving forward in terms of generating that income level?
Well, it's been quite challenging recently because we were so lucky in getting the funding when we did. We had that window of opportunity, we went through it, but then clearly we opened into a recessionary economy, and that made life much harder. There's less funding around in the public sector, there's less for the charitable sector to bid for. It's all highly competitive. So whilst we probably would have had some safety nets when we first opened, most of those have disappeared, and we've been very much on our own. And the question is, will we be able to make it? We've been lucky in that we've managed to sell some land that is going to help us help with our cash flow while we get this up and running fully. And other people have been really helpful. The events have been increasing. We've managed to get more play on the site as well. So the visitor figures are going up. However, we're still not there, and we won't be there for a few years. But thinking about the site as well and the attractions that we've got on it, we'd like to broaden its appeal. Not everybody is excited by wildlife, although the architectural spectacle is wonderful. We're sort of looking at some water sports facilities, which will be over on one of the larger lakes, and the universities and schools are very interested in those, and we're hoping to make grant applications for those. We've already got a new bird hide and classroom being built on one of the other lakes next to the sand martin hides, and that's underway now, and that'll allow us to take bigger school groups here, which is a sort of limiting factor at the moment if people want to bring a whole year. And then the other one we're looking at is a sort of Viking theme, which may sound a bit wacky, but just across the river from here was the largest Viking hoard ever found in the northwest of Europe. It's called the Curdale Hoard. It's in the British Museum. There's lots of gold and silver and jewels. What we would want to do is to develop that Viking theme, maybe with a Viking longhouse, maybe with a Viking longboat, which would be very exciting, using traditional crafts and skills to build those, and hopefully adding another element of attractiveness to the site, so that we'd have the history, the wildlife, the play, the activities and events, and hopefully that would broaden the appeal enough that it would give us the critical mass that we need to survive into the future. So it's quite commercial, but it's also about giving benefits to people in the area of Lancashire.
So if I then just summarise and say, looking at Brockholes, which is absolutely unique in the UK, because it's a floating visitor centre in a wildlife environment which is superb. It was funded by public sector funding. That funding allowed it to exist. It's only been open a couple of years, but obviously the funding has now been cut. So what you're looking at is an innovative ways of sustaining and growing that income level, so that you can provide this environment for many sectors, not only obviously in people interested in wildlife, but people interested in conferences, people interested in history, geology, geography, and that broader appeal will allow this wildlife centre to actually exist and grow.
Yes. I mean, essentially we have to sweat the assets on this site,
of course.
And so we are interested in talking to partners, commercial partners who might have some track record and expertise in this field, retail, work on the conferences, events. We're already working with other partners on events. We have a partner on the site that runs the catering. So where there are other business opportunities on site, we would be interested in talking to other people that could help us develop.
So you can actually say this is a triumph over the adversity of a shortage of funding.
It certainly is, and if you ask me the same question in maybe 4 or 5 years after our opening, we will definitely know whether we have completely triumphed.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna. Much pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.